very much, and we're looking forward to, is it Save Our Seas? What's the name? Our Seas 3.0. Save Our Seas 3.0, bipartisan collaboration. And I know those of us who live on the coast, and I think you were doing that with Senator Sullivan, right? And I know Alaska, we hear a lot about their concerns about the Pacific Gyre and the amount of plastic waste that washes up, as well as the...
We pick it up on our shores with garbage bags. They have to pick it up on their shores with front-end loaders and dumpsters because of the Pacific flow of plastic waste.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think it's an interesting point about the economics involved, because my impression, going back to when Oregon first implemented recycling of bottles, and all the bottles were glass, is that those who delivered the product were happy to have the bottles washed and reused because it was cheaper than buying a new bottle, because it takes a lot of energy to create a glass bottle melting. It was the folks who made the bottles who at that point were extremely resistant, because obviously they'd get to sell less bottles if the existing bottles were reused. But with plastics, the economics often are different in that it can be cheaper, as my colleague pointed out, to make a new one than to recycle an existing piece. But it's the externalities of the impact of that plastic downstream that aren't taken into account. I wanted to ask you, Ms. Meng, as the foundation has worked with partners to implement larger scale reuse and refill, are there like a top 3, here are the biggest obstacles we've encountered?
Excellent question, and I will kind of look to the rest of the panel also for their experience. But I do think that the challenge that we see from folks is we have had businesses asking for a level playing field, because the need for shared infrastructure at scale, kind of standardized infrastructure, is crucial. And so in an individual company, it's a real challenge to kind of build out that infrastructure to establish sufficient collection points or access points for consumers. And so they're looking for policy intervention to really help bring folks together to collaborate to get the shared infrastructure at scale that they need to make it work economically. So I think that's kind of the big challenge that we're hearing.
At scale, it just gets a lot cheaper.
Absolutely.
Okay. And Ms. Schmid, as we think about plastic bottles being reused, and is there a consumer challenge? Consumers get very used. They want their oranges to look orange, and they want their apples with no bruises, and they're kind of used to that kind of the perfect product on the shelf. So, do we find with plastic bottles that are reused that consumers go, oh, why is this bottle got scratches on it? Or are consumers accepting and the manufacturers happy with the consumer response of reused plastic bottles?
Thank you for the question. Reusable packagings are going to rotate several times, and that's something that from our own experience, we are seeing consumers really willing to accept. It's also in the hands of the manufacturer to design the right durable package that is meeting their consumer needs. And then we have a whole industry that has very strong experience in designing product and packaging that delights consumers on a daily basis. And I have fully confidence, based on the work that we have seen already on the platform today, that we are able to deliver against those needs.
Well, let me ask you the same question I asked Ms. Meng, which is, as you work on this project, what are the kind of the top 3 challenges you're encountering?
I would say there is only one challenge. The challenge is scale. We talked about it previously in talking about labor cost. Costs will be viable once there is sufficient units to flow through the system. What is required is really a system that is competitive versus single use, also in a number of units that flow through the system.
Thank you. And Mr. Debus, I was picturing these plastic pallets. I'm more familiar with wooden pallets, but I'm also familiar with how those wooden pallets break apart, degrade, and so on and so forth. Are the plastic pallets a more durable product? Is that part of why they found acceptance?
They can be, for sure. And many of them are designed to last for many years, hundreds of uses. So there could be some durability properties that plastic pallets offer that, say, wood does not. We are seeing some great advancements, though, in wood pallet suppliers performing reuse capabilities, such as offering inventory management programs and working directly with customers on a managed pool of wood products, wood pallets they can take back and, of course, repair and put them in place. And so we are seeing some reuse models even get into the wood pallet industry as well. And several of our members are wood pallet supplier and pooler companies.
I have so many additional questions, but I'm out of time. I have another hearing that's just started, but our chair of Environment and Public Works has arrived, and so I'm going to turn the hearing over to you. If you'd like to also continue to go as long as you want.